So, what are the organizations or institutions that make a difference in your life, that really enhance the community? Maybe not just for you personally, but for people like you or maybe not like you. Maybe it's a school. Maybe it's a church. Maybe it's a sports team. Think of what the Warriors have done to bring together Oakland. But what about a museum? Do you believe museums can change lives? Do you believe museums can change communities, can make a real impact in the life of their community? Now, maybe you haven't thought about a museum in this way. Maybe when you've experienced museums, you've been bored or confused or uncomfortable. Maybe you don't even think about going to a museum. But I believe that museums can have a real impact in the life of their community. And at the Oakland Museum of California, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And I actually believe it's what we must do. Now, the Oakland Museum of California was founded in 1969, and from the very outset, it positioned itself as a museum of the people. It brought together 3 smaller institutions, an art museum, a history museum, and a science museum, all under one roof. And with this broad interdisciplinary scope, it appealed to people with a broad range of interests. It was also a department of the city of Oakland, and it was built on bond money, so it had a real obligation to serve the residents of Oakland. And even this architecture, with the indoor-outdoor terraces and the large public garden and the entrances that welcomed people from the surrounding community, even this utopian vision of the architecture spoke to this vision of being a museum of the people. And since then, for the last 50 years, that's what we've really strived to do, is to fulfill this vision of being a museum of the people. The thing that's changed, though, in this 50 years is who the people are. Now, a lot of institutions, cultural institutions and museums, they intellectually understand changing demographics, and they know they need to adjust and change to new audiences and new ways of engaging these audiences. But really, too often, they fundamentally don't change. They don't change their boards, they don't change their staff, they don't change the ways they welcome and engage their visitors. They definitely don't change their exhibitions or programming. And that's what we are now trying to figure out at the Oakland Museum, how we actually truly reflect our community in order to serve our community. And that's meant a fundamental difference in the way we think about our mission, and indeed in the way we even think about the difference we're trying to make in the world. So let me give you a couple of examples. So exhibitions are what most people think about when they think about museums. This is the heart and soul of a museum. And typically museums base exhibitions on their collections, on the artwork and artifacts in their holdings, or around the expertise of their curators or their areas of interest of those curators. What we're trying to do at OMCA is actually to think instead about those urgent topics and themes and concerns of Oakland and of California, and to take those topics on in our exhibition programming. So, for example, a few years ago, we, along with many community partners and collaborators, presented the exhibition Altered State Marijuana in California. And this was in the months leading up to the election for legalization of recreational marijuana. Now, the museum didn't really take a stand on pro-legalization or anti-legalization, but we definitely took a stand that this was an important topic, one that was widely misunderstood in our public, and one that we could be a place to come together and have the conversation. 2 years ago, we opened the exhibition All Power to the People, Black Panthers at 50. And of course, this was an exhibition that explored the founding of the Black Panther Party in 1966 in Oakland. But our position there was that the 10-point platform, the manifesto of freedom and justice for the Black Panther Party, was as relevant and timely today as it was 50 years ago. Absolutely. And we also, we heard earlier about the social innovations and social practices that the Panthers pioneered and are also still very much part of the legacy. In these last few months, we have worked with more than 80 collaborators, musicians, educators, artists, scholars, to present the exhibition Respect, Hip Hop Style and Wisdom. And this exhibition really took the position that hip hop is a cultural expression of community empowerment and youth development. But perhaps our most game-changing project in the last few years has been Friday nights at OMCA. And this project now brings together the whole neighborhood in a celebration of creativity and connection, where we throw open the welcome mat to Oakland and really become a gathering place for what I think of as Oakland's best block party. So what has this meant for us? Well, it's definitely meant our audiences have grown and changed. It's meant that people talk about the museum in a different way. And it means that our community is really taking ownership of our museum. So what does success look like for us with this? Well, this is where I really feel that we're in the same space of moving from I to we. Because it's not any longer about us as a museum and what we need to achieve or what we are trying to teach people about California art, history, and natural sciences. Instead, it's about the museum being a place and a space for people to come together at a time when I don't think we've ever felt so disconnected. Disconnected from our place, disconnected from our stories and our histories, disconnected maybe from our neighbors, even disconnected from a sense of purpose. And that's what we're trying to do at the museum now, is to be a place that can help people reconnect with this place, with their histories, with their neighbors, and with a sense of purpose. So how does that translate into how we measure success? Well, we definitely still look at our attendance figures and the number of members and social media followers and our financial statistics. But now we're starting to actually measure our impact in a different way. We're asking the questions, do our visitors feel a sense of welcome and belonging? Do they feel that their story matters, that they see their story reflected at the museum, that they're open to the stories of others? Do they feel connected to their neighbors? Do they feel connected to the people that they maybe came with? But most importantly, do they feel connected to people they may be encountering at the museum for the first time? So this is what we're trying to do at the museum now, and not only articulate that kind of impact, but measure it. And we're still very early in this game, but our hope is that if we can be a resource for museums who are also trying to articulate their impact on their communities, then we might be able to have an impact even more broadly with museums across the country and even around the world. So think about it. Think about museums in your community. Think about where museums might have an impact and how actually you could be part of the collaboration that makes that kind of impact possible. So we're still very much on a journey. We're still learning. We're still learning how to be better listeners, how we can be better partners, how we can open our doors more widely, both physically and metaphorically, to our Oakland community. But I believe that this is the transformation of I to we, and that we are trying to be part of that transformation. I believe that is when we can be indispensable to our public. And when we are that indispensable, I believe museums can change lives, and museums can change communities. Thank you.